Can you hear them? Those footsteps. They began long before kingdoms rose. From Adam to Abraham. From Moses to the apostles. Generation after generation, they trusted God's word. They obeyed his voice. They left evidence that God never fails. Now, the footsteps are coming closer. The question is, faith is rising, hear the sound. Ancient footsteps shake the ground. Every promise still remains. Jesus Christ forever reigns. Noah built before the rain. God's plan. Sarah laughing chose to trust. Faithful God is always just. Before the mountain starts to move, before your eyes can see the proof, keep believing, keep obeying. Our God never changes. Faith that leaves footprints, leading every generation, walking in his promise, standing on salvation.
If your faith doesn't leave a visible physical footprint on the world, is it actually faith?
I mean, that is the exact question we are confronting today.
Right, because we so often treat belief as this abstract thing, like a private sentiment locked away in your chest.
Exactly, where no one else can see it, and more importantly, where no one else can measure it.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we are exploring the anatomy of how an abstract belief translates into undeniable, world-altering action.
Yes, and to do that, we are looking at an audio transcript and text chat from a midweek service. It was held on July 1st, 2026 by the International Church of Christ in Jos, Nigeria.
And our guide through this material is Ndu Eke, the evangelist for the Jos Church.
Tunde's approach here is distinctly grounded. He's this compelling, visionary spiritual leader, but he is actively guiding his congregation through some very heavy real-world realities.
Yeah, because when you are dealing with significant socioeconomic turbulence, like inflation or political uncertainty, theoretical platitudes just do not work.
They crumble under pressure, right? Tunde isn't just delivering a routine sermon here. He is laying out a literal survival strategy for his people.
And his central premise really challenges how modern society views belief. He argues that if faith doesn't leave evidence, well, it might not exist at all.
So he transitions his congregation into a teaching titled, "Follow the Example of Good People." And he anchors his entire thesis on Hebrews chapter 6, verse 12.
Right, the text that urges readers not to become lazy, but to actively imitate those who inherit promises through faith.
But Tunde zeroes in on that word, imitate. And he completely strips away our modern, often superficial understanding of the concept.
Well, think about how often you hear the word imitate. You probably picture like a cheap impression, right?
Yeah, like a parrot repeating a phrase or someone lazily copying an action.
Exactly. But Tunde takes us down to the Greek root word used in the original text, which is mimētēs.
Which is actually where we get the English word mimic.
Right, but in the New Testament context, mimētēs implies something vastly different than superficial copying.
It implies an active, rigorous emulation of character. It's about aligning the very pattern of your life with the steadfastness of mature believers.
You know, the best way to visualize this difference between lazily copying actions and true mimētēs is to think about a student in a classroom.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, like Lazily copying actions is basically cheating. It's just copying another student's homework answers so you get the grade.
Right, you get the result, but possess zero actual skill.
Exactly. Whereas mimētēs is studying how the smartest kid in class thinks. It's figuring out how they approach problems so you can emulate their actual intellect and understand it yourself.
That is a brilliant distinction. You aren't just stealing the result, you are adopting the rigorous process.
And Ndu makes this incredibly personal by contrasting this evidence-based emulation with his own past.
Yeah, he candidly shares that before he became a disciple, he was heavily involved in the Pentecostal movement.
Where he used to view faith as what he now calls blind optimism.
Right. Precisely. He describes it almost like a jump off a cliff and God will catch you mentality. A blind leap driven by emotion rather than evidence.
Which is terrifying, honestly.
It really is. He even notes, with a lot of self-awareness, that if God hadn't mercifully protected them until they learned better, a lot of people would have jumped and been broken to pieces.
Oh. But I hear this idea of rigorous mimētēs and emulating character, and it just feels daunting.
It's a massive gap between human limitation and a high spiritual standard.
Right, and my pointed question here is, if God expects this level of maturity, and if he is all-powerful, why not just download that spiritual maturity into our brains?
Like a sudden software update.
Exactly. Why force human beings through the grueling, slow struggle of learning it? Why the struggle?
That is the natural anxiety anyone would have. But Ndu addresses this exact tension using a passage from the prophet Isaiah, chapter 28, verses 9 and 10.
Okay, and what does the text say?
The core phrase describing how God teaches is precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little.
Which sounds poetic, but how does that translate to the psychology of actual human growth?
Ndu explains the psychology using this very tender, universally relatable analogy. He talks about a parent painstakingly teaching a child the alphabet.
Oh, right, the story about his daughter.
Yes. He shares a specific anecdote about teaching his daughter how to write the letter P. She kept writing it backward, facing the wrong way entirely.
And as a parent, you obviously don't just yell at the child for not writing a novel on day one.
Exactly. He didn't demand a masterpiece. He had to physically hold her hand, patiently guiding her to get the shape of that single letter right.
Over and over again.
Right. A child doesn't start with complex syntax, they start with a single sound, one letter at a time.
He actually dropped a line during this analogy that really clarifies the stakes. He said, "A child who refuses the alphabet will never write a masterpiece."
It's such a profound way to look at the daily grind of making small, seemingly insignificant choices.
Because God doesn't download everything at once, since human psychology literally couldn't handle the weight of it.
Precisely. Ndu links this directly to the words of Jesus in John 16:12, where Jesus tells his closest followers, "I have much more to say to you, more than you can now bear."
The idea that truth actually has a physical weight to it.
Yes, an immense weight. Ndu draws a fascinating conclusion here. He says God's silence, or the slow pace of your own growth, isn't the absence of truth.
It's the wisdom of waiting until we are ready to carry it.
Exactly. Until your character is strong enough to carry the reality you are asking for.
That completely reframes those times when we feel like we are stuck in the dark. We think we're being ignored, but we're just still learning how to hold the pencil.
Beautifully said.
But wait, this brings up a pushback I have. Once this slow maturity actually takes hold, what does it look like? Why is there a demand for outward proof?
What do you mean?
Well, isn't faith supposed to be an internal, private conviction between you and God? Why demand a visible footprint at all?
Ndu actually counters that premise entirely. His central thesis is that biblical faith is never permitted to remain merely an inward conviction.
It has to leave a mark.
Yes. He uses the analogy of the wind. You cannot see the wind itself, right?
Right, the force is invisible.
But you undeniably see the trees swaying. You don't see the life inside a true trunk, but you see the physical fruit it produces.
So if the tree isn't swaying, there's no wind.
Exactly. And he doesn't leave this as a metaphor. He dives into the historical evidence from the Hall of Faith found in Hebrews 11.
Emphasizing that God preserved these as real stories of real struggles.
Real people who left massive, undeniable footprints. Take Abel, for example.
His footprint was actively giving God his absolute best, not just his secondhand leftovers.
Right. Then you have Enoch, whose footprint was walking closely with God daily for 300 years.
And I love how grounded Ndu gets here. He has this humorous, humbling moment of self-reflection.
Oh, about his own baptism.
Yeah. He tells the church he was baptized in 1995, which made it 32 years of faith at the time. And then he looks at Enoch's 300 years and just openly admits, I still have a very long way to go.
It totally strips away any ego from his leadership position. Then he points to Noah. Noah's footprint was obeying before anyone understands the context.
Building an ark for over 100 years amidst deafening societal mockery.
Long before a single drop of rain ever fell. And Abraham, trusting God with his future and literally leaving his homeland behind without a map.
But Tunde lives this out himself, right? It's not just ancient history for him.
Not at all. He brings it crashing into his own immediate physical reality by sharing about his recent neck surgery.
He talked about being butchered, as he jokingly called it, to examine a mass in his neck.
The looming fear hanging over his family and the congregation was cancer.
Yeah, that's heavy.
Very heavy. But Tunde tells them that because his worldview is built on the slow, precept upon precept evidence of proven character, he wasn't panicking.
And it turned out to be a severe infection, not cancer, right?
Right. But when the doctor delivered the results, Tunde realized his internal state hadn't fluctuated. He was already at peace.
His psychological peace in that waiting room became a visible footprint for his entire church to see.
It proved that the alphabet he had been learning for 3 decades actually allowed him to write the sentence when the ultimate test came.
Which perfectly fluidly moves us from the ancient historical figures to the living, breathing reality of the modern disciples in Jos.
Exactly. This isn't just abstract theology, it's a vital mechanism for resilience happening right now.
And we see that in the authentic, moving feedback from the congregation members during the service.
These are the actual trees swaying in Jos, Nigeria. Take Ndu Eke, for instance.
Right, the older member who led the previous series on faith as evidence.
Yes. Ndu points out that Tunde's teaching is producing actual perseverance through the heavy political and economic troubles they are facing.
They aren't just waiting for a magical rescue, they're building the internal capacity to endure.
And Ndu emphasizes that this faith is forward-looking. He is actively working to impart this exact perseverance to his 3 adult children,
who are 31, 29, and 25. He's building a behavioral footprint for them to step into.
We also have Shadrach, who is just in awe that God builds maturity one truth at a time from the endless library of the Bible.
And Daniel, grasping the heavy historical responsibility that they too must leave footsteps worthy of emulation for the next generation.
Plus Leo, who really deeply resonated with that child learning analogy.
And Miracle, openly committing to proving her faith genuinely in her daily actions, rather than just holding it as a private sentiment.
When you synthesize all these reactions, you realize you are watching the physical manifestation of Tunde's core argument.
A community choosing perseverance over panic.
Exactly. That is the undeniable footprint of the profound spiritual leadership Tunde is providing.
Which brings the cinematic momentum of this deep dive to its absolute peak, because Tunde turns his focus directly onto the listener.
He delivers this ultimate, devastatingly heavy challenge that strips away all the noise.
I want everyone listening to just let the absolute weight of this question hang in the air for a second.
He asks the room, if no one heard me say I believe in Christ, would my daily life still reveal it?
If no one heard me say it, would my daily life still reveal it?
Wow. That question completely dismantles the idea of private, invisible faith.
It strips away the verbal professions, the social media labels, all of it. It leaves only the compounding evidence of the choices you actually made when things were difficult.
As we wrap up, we want to remind you that analyzing these sources is a tool to help you process the profound insights hiding in the material around you.
We've discussed how our daily, invisible choices are the individual letters of the alphabet we are painstakingly learning to write with.
But there's one final angle to this we want to leave you with. Something to mull over that builds directly on the Jos service.
We've talked a lot about physical footprints, the resources we share, the patience we show, but we live in an era where the vast majority of our actions are virtual.
Right, we interact and spend our time in a digital space that is entirely ethereal.
Which forces us to ask a deeply modern question in a hyper-digital world, where our words are endless but our physical presence is minimized. What does a lasting spiritual footprint even look like today?
Can a digital footprint carry the same weight as a physical one? Or are we just shouting into the wind, hoping the trees will sway?
Something heavy to process long after this audio stops playing. We'll see you next time.
Jesus Christ forever reigns. Noah built before the rain. Abraham embraced God's plan. Sarah to move before your eyes can see the proof. Keep believing, keep obeying. Our God never changes.